The Alabama Farmers Federation and the Alabama Farmers Cooperative proudly present Simply Southern with Mary Wilson.
Hello again and welcome to Simply Southern. I'm Mary Wilson. Alabama agriculture is a primary reason we bring you this show every week. So as you can imagine, we've covered a lot of farms over nearly 6 seasons. Today, we'll focus on a few of the less conventional farming operations in the state. Hunting wild turkey is a favorite outdoor pursuit in the South, but the variety we enjoy over the holidays actually comes from a farm. In Season 5, we stopped by Alabama's favorite source for this Thanksgiving staple. You may not associate that bottle of Chardonnay or Merlot with farming, but it still takes hard days in the field to bring the fruit of the vine to harvest. We'll have our tour of Whippoorwill Vineyards coming up a little later. Shifting gears from the swanky subject of wine, we'll dig a little deeper into the Simply Southern archives as we revisit a Geneva County farm for worms. But to get us started, we'll take a trip to the lovely Alabama Gulf Coast to visit an underwater farm. Simply Southern continues after the break.
What sustains us? Food? Family? Faith? Alabama farmers live those things every day. They conserve our resources, clothe our families, and fill our tables. They cultivate jobs for our communities and values for our future. Farmers grow it all, right here in Alabama.
There's no such thing as downtime when you own a farm. This is your land. You tend it and try to get the most from it, no matter the weather or time of day. It's been that way for generations. And for generations, your local quality co-op store has been there for you, with a full range of agriculture supplies and services, from feed to fertilizer, seed to grain storage, and the right hardware for any application. You'll always find what you need, plus friendly, knowledgeable advice at your local quality co-op store. There's one near you.
It's difficult to imagine our favorite seafood dishes originating on a farm. The carefully planned and controlled world of agriculture seems out of place compared to the vast and untamed ocean. Earlier in Season 6, however, we saw how a popular shellfish is meticulously raised on a coastal farming operation just below the surface of the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico.
Up until 1927, one of the southernmost points in Alabama was known as Murder Point. But after a dispute over an oyster lease turned deadly, locals started calling the area Murder Point. Today, the name remains. But over the past 8 years, the area has become known for producing oysters that some say are worth killing for.
Deer go out as far as California. They're up in the Chicago area. They're up to the northeast, up in Maine, as far as Maine to the northeast. Any white tablecloth restaurant that does seafood, there's a chance you're going to find a Murder Point oyster. We sent a bunch of oysters out to Vegas for the Alabama LSU game earlier this year. Just anywhere where you're finding fine dining and people care about what they're eating.
Oyster farming's only been around for about 10 years. Before that, people known as tongers would scoop them off natural reefs. But Americans' growing appetite for the bivalves sparked a new industry that's spreading along the Gulf Coast.
So basically, there are 3 stages. They're going to be in the hatchery, they're going to be in the nursery, and then they move on to the farm where we were today. So they start off and we spawn adult oysters. They're swimming larvae for a couple of weeks in our hatchery, and they will then stay in our nursery on a flow-through system for maybe a month or 2 months, and then once they're big enough to fit into our grow-out baskets, they will go to the grow-out phase at the oyster farm.
We had 3 million oysters in the water last year. We've got 8 million in the water for this coming year. We also started a hatchery 2 years ago, so we put, the last I was told, 87% of the seed in the Gulf this year come from L3 hatchery. So we did 35 million seeds through the hatchery this year.
There are 2 systems farmers use for growing oysters, and both of them keep the animals off the seafloor. One utilizes floating cages, while the other has baskets hanging from long lines extending into the Gulf.
And so basically harvesting an oyster is going out to your farm, unhooking that basket, bringing it in, and then sorting through your oysters that you have in that basket and getting the ones that are ready for market. So it's a lot less work than what people think as far as just the harvesting part. The actual growing, is the labor-intensive part.
From the time an oyster is spawned until it appears on your plate averages 8 months. Sometimes it can be done in 6, and other times conditions can cause it to take a year or more. But during that growing season, the oysters are constantly being handled to ensure the best quality for the consumer.
Once a week, you're supposed to lift those baskets up out of the water for 24 hours and then come back after 24 hours and put them back into the water. And that sort of drying period, I guess you could call it, is supposed to kill the algae that's growing on your oysters, on their shell, and supposed to kill the barnacles as well, if there are barnacles on them. So you just have to kind of also go out there and make sure that you don't have any baskets hanging or baskets on the ground, because if they're on the ground in the mud, that oyster is probably not opening up to feed, it's not growing.
Even though it takes a lot of work, the folks at Murder Point say it's really a labor of love. Every time someone enjoys one of their butter love oysters, it makes hot days in the sun and cold days in the water worth the effort.
If you eat one of our Murder Point oysters, you get a blast of salt, but you get a rich, creamy, buttery aftertaste right there on the back of your palate. So that's where the butter come from. And so we hashtag everything on social media, butter love, and stuff like that. So, it's just the passion that it takes to really do this right. I mean, anybody can grow an oyster, but can you raise one? And that's what we're doing here at Murder Point. We're trying to raise oysters.
For Simply Southern, I'm Kevin Worthington.
Although he claims not to be a big fan of oysters, Kevin was a big fan of Murder Point's farm-raised variety. I asked him if their motto of being oysters worth killing for held up. He said he'd gladly kill plenty of time, finishing off another dozen or two. I'm not sure how oysters pair with wine, but that's what's next on the menu. We'll return with our story on Macon County's Whippoorwill Vineyards after the break.
Wear long pants, long sleeve shirts, and closed-toed shoes. Don't be ticked. Use repellents with 20% DEET on skin and 0.5% permethrin on gear and clothing. Don't be ticked. Avoid sitting on rotten logs or stumps. Don't be ticked. Protect yourself from serious tick-borne illnesses and seek timely treatment to prevent long-term problems. No hunters were angered in the making of this film.
Soybean is a very versatile product. We make crayons out of it.
A lot of the combines you see rolling through the fields have a lot of plastic side panels that are made from a soy product.
The soybeans that we grow on our farm mostly goes into chicken feed.
Soybean production in Alabama employs over 10,000 people.
We grow some of the best soybeans in the world.
We go the extra mile to make sure when our name is stamped on it, we know it's the best product we can produce.
Some of the best things in life start with a bundle. And some of them can actually save you money. Like when you bundle your auto and life insurance with Alpha. Protect what's important to you at a price you can afford.
All for a better life.
Alpha Insurance.
All for a better life.
Ask your local agent about Alpha's Auto Life discount.
Pinot Noir, Zinfandel, Sauvignon Blanc. These are all grape varieties known primarily for the wines they're used to produce. The names conjure up sun-soaked mountain vineyards in France, Italy, or California. But Alabama is home to its own popular grape variety, the muscadine, which probably conjures up some country song involving dirt roads and a pickup truck. In 2018, we visited a farm that specializes in growing this southern favorite, producing wines that can satisfy even the most discerning palate.
Since 2005, Tim Watkins has spent most of his September weekends atop his John Deere tractor, maneuvering a modified blueberry picker through nearly 16 acres of muscadine vines. These sweet, crisp grapes are destined to become one of the numerous award-winning wine varieties available from Whippoorwill Vineyards.
It's kind of a long process before you can actually drink it, but yes, that's good from the vine to the bottle, and that's what we're proud of here, because it does come from our vines to the bottle. So that's one thing we 100% what we grow is what we sell in the bottle.
Winemaking used to be just a hobby for the Macon County farmer and his dad, Bobby. The pair would compete every year, making wine from muscadine vines in the backyard. When Bobby bought 50 acres of land near their home place, they saw it as an opportunity to plant just a few more vines.
The idea came to me, well, we need some more vines to make wine, you know, in the summertime. So I said, we can go over and plant, you know, maybe 20, 25 vines over there on that land. You clean up a little area. So I guess what turned into 20, 25 vines turned into like 2,500.
More than just inspiring the idea for the vineyard, Bobby also came up with the business name.
They was singing up down the holler right there. They was talking about what this gonna call it, I just come up, Whippoorwill, because you could hear them everywhere. And it's stuck, Whippoorwill Vineyards.
Vines grow just a stone's throw away from the facility where the muscadines are processed and bottled. Thankfully, modern crushing equipment has made the olden-time process of smushing grapes by foot obsolete. Crushed muscadines are moved to a tank to ferment before being pumped into a press to separate the skins and seeds from the juice. Once the wine is perfect, it's ready for bottling, something the Watkins family and friends do together.
Everything we have in our vineyard, we try to support local Alabama. Our labels are made in Moody, Alabama by Guaranteed Labels. So everything we can possibly use Alabama, we try to. That supports local economy. In the same token, we want our local people to come in and support us.
Along with the vineyard and processing facility, the farm is a true agritourism destination.
First and foremost, we want people to know it's very family oriented because we built this winery because we wanted something our entire family could do together, you know, spending time together. They can come out, they can bring picnics, they can do you-pick. We joke, people and say, as long as your kids stay within the tree line, we can find them. But, you know, just a place that they can come out and feel at home, feel welcome, like they're part of our family once they come.
There's also a gift shop featuring other Alabama-made products and a tasting room where visitors are encouraged to sip samples until they find their favorite variety. And with 10 wine options ranging from dry to sweet, there's sure to be one that pleases your palate.
The product that they have, I have to share it. I feel like you've got to come see this winery, you've got to come taste their wine, you've got to come see the vineyards. It's beautiful out here. And so I'm very proud that they are just a few minutes away from us because I love bringing all of my friends and family.
We're in the rural northern tip of Macon County and, you know, kind of centrally between Montgomery and Auburn. I love the interaction of the people coming over and really the surprise that they have when they come in and they're, oh my gosh, this is like a little treasure out in the country.
If that made you interested in a visit to the beautiful Macon County countryside, or even if you'd rather just pick up a bottle at your nearest store, whippoorwillvineyards.com is a great place to start. When we return, we'll revisit our feature on Bates Turkey Farm, where they raise such tasty birds, the governor pardons a couple every year just to keep it fair.
A farmer has to live on faith. We do all we can do, but we can only control so much.
Alabama is the second largest poultry growing state in the nation, so we're trying our best to grow all the corn we can for that.
What we produce not only feeds and clothes all of the United States, but about half of what we make goes on to the world market.
We've been able to improve yields, have some things that can help us produce a better crop. I'm proud of the product we make and proud that I can say I'm an Alabama farmer.
Farm Bureau Bank has built its entire existence around the lifestyle and needs of farmers and ranchers across America. We're here to help grow traditions, give back to agricultural communities, and offer financial convenience for your unique way of life. From sunup to sundown, we are committed to serving you.
I take pride in the product that we produce as a catfish farmer. Hi, I'm Willard Poe, and I'm the 2019 Alabama Catfish Farmer of the Year. When I go out to a restaurant and see people eating U.S. farm-raised catfish, you know, that gives you a sense of pride and a sense of joy, knowing that, you know, you have produced a product that other people, you know, enjoy. Other people love to go out and eat.
The city of Greenville is a favorite stop for tourists headed down I-65 to the beach. There you'll find Bates House of Turkey, a popular little restaurant with a crowded parking lot to prove it. The lunchtime crowds come for their namesake turkey dishes, raised just up the road at the Bates family farm. Let's take a step back to our 2019 feature on Alabama's preferred Thanksgiving bird.
Thanksgiving is an occasion to gather with friends and family to reflect on our blessings. It's a time of goodwill, which is a blessing in itself for poor old Clyde here, who is about to benefit from a nearly 70-year-old Alabama tradition.
These are a couple of high-stepping turkeys, and you know what to say about a high stepper. No step too high for a high stepper. So Clyde and Henrietta, by the power vested in me, I hereby pardon you from the succulent trappings of a Thanksgiving dinner.
Back in 1949, when Big Jim Folsom first had the notion to extend leniency to one of these foul-feathered miscreants, he turned to an Alabama poultry operation that has since grown into a tradition in itself.
The farm started with my grandparents. When they married, my granddaddy's aunt, Mamie Bates, gave them turkey eggs for their wedding present. My grandmother raised the turkeys, and at the holidays, she would sell them to local people.
Since 1923, the Bates family has raised some of the finest turkey you'll find at their farm near Fort Deposit. As you can tell, these birds don't spend too much time sitting around a house, which the owners say makes for a tastier end result.
To me, it's a better bird, better tasting bird. I mean, it's stress-free, and I don't know, that makes for a better product.
We've done free range since I was a little girl. I mean, I can never remember us raising the turkeys completely in a house. They've always been in the pecan orchards.
Not surprisingly, turkey is the star of the show at Greenville's Bates House of Turkey. Opened in 1970 as a way to promote the farm's products, the restaurant has become a popular stop for beach-bound travelers on I-65.
That's one reason we are still here, is because of the traffic on that highway, people going on vacation. I heard a couple of people, more than once now, come up and they'll be talking to their children. And my mom and dad brought us here when we were growing up, when we were going to the beach.
Whether you're looking for a top-notch turkey sandwich or a plate with all the fixings, come early, folks. This cozy little restaurant can fill up in a hurry.
We have all the sandwiches and, of course, the traditional roast turkey dinner with dressing and gravy and vegetables. We make casseroles out of turkey meat, white bean turkey chili, turkey gumbo.
As you can imagine, Bates House of Turkey is a must-stop around, or in some cases, well before Thanksgiving.
Actually, our busy season starts the first spring break in March. We have so many people that are traveling through, and they're not going to be back through here, so they want to pick up their Thanksgiving items to take home.
Keeping Alabama stocked with turkey, pardoned or otherwise, is a point of pride for the Bates family. For many, the Bates label has become synonymous with Thanksgiving, which suits this family farm just fine. After nearly a century in business, they have a lot to be thankful for.
A lot rides on me and my dad and my cousins and everybody involved with it, and don't want to see something that's been going since 1923 just fall apart.
It's very humbling. I have grandchildren that are working in the business, and so we're talking about 5 generations, so that's really special to be able to take this that my mother and daddy nurtured and to see it go on.
If you can't make it down to Greenville, Bates Turkey is sold in grocery stores across the state. You also can actually order their products online at batesturkey.com. That turkey is F-I-N-E fine, and the nap afterwards, I highly recommend. But don't you go napping just yet. You'd miss out on maybe the strangest farm we've visited on Simply Southern. We'll show you some creepy, crawly crops after the break.
There's nothing quite like sitting down to a home-cooked meal with fresh vegetables from the garden.
With Bonnie plants from your local quality co-op store, you can enjoy the freshest vegetables right from your own backyard. And no matter if you're a raised bed gardener, a rose gardener, or if you farm hundreds of acres, your quality co-op store has exactly what you need to get the most out of your plants. You'll always find what you need, plus friendly, knowledgeable advice at your local quality co-op store. There's one near you.
The versatile peanut, meat of the earth, friend of the soil, tasty, nutritious, packed with protein. And Alabama peanut farmers nourish some very special things: families, communities, and Alabama's economy. Peanuts. Good for you, good for Alabama.
For more Simply Southern, be sure to follow us on social media. And while you're online, visit our website, simplysouthern.tv.net. Simply Southern will continue in a moment.
We believe a plant should be more than a plant. This one is. It's all you need for your garden to succeed because it's a Bonnie plant. It represents hundreds of varieties of Bonnie's quality veggies and herbs. But more, it's from generations of Bonnie people who are passionate about sharing their love of gardening with you. Look for this little Bonnie plant and a whole family of plants like it in your garden center. Bonnie plants, so you'll know how to grow.
If you've been out working in your yard or digging in your garden and stumbled on a slimy, wriggly earthworm, you may wonder what the good Lord was thinking on that one. I'm sure there's a good scientific explanation on the benefits of these slimy critters, but probably the best reason for a worm can be found at the end of a fishing line. Back in our first season, we visited a farm that's undoubtedly a fisherman's best friend.
You know, many a summer day in the South has passed with little more than a fishing rod and a cup of squirmy friends. Well, regardless of where you are, worms are a common enough sight. But for the typical weekend angler, those worms are far more likely to be found on a store shelf than in the backyard. Well, if this sounds like you, Bobby Reeder is your friend.
Well, my grandfather on my mother's side started the business in 1943 or thereabouts. He got started raising a local worm, kind of domesticating a local worm, growing it out under certain cultural practices that seemed to work, and it went from there from my grandfather to my father and down to me. And I'm a third generation in the live bait business. Our main part of our operation is going to be the live bait, crawling bait, and mostly worms. We do crickets also, but we distribute those the bait in the southeastern United States, from South Florida to the Carolinas to Tennessee and over to Louisiana.
Worm farming, it turns out, is much more involved than a long day out with a shovel. As with most aspects of agriculture, Reeder's live bait operation is a complex business.
Well, nothing is ever as simple as it appears to be, I suppose, but you start out, by finding a shade somewhere with good sandy loam soil, and you break up the soil or till the soil and put mulch in it. You disc in the mulch or work in the mulch with a rotary tiller. You come back and put a layer of mulch on top, then you seed your bed or stock your bed. And of course, the heavier you stock your bed, the quicker you can get it into commercial production. But then you feed and water the worm.
Through a systematic process, the worms are collected, cleaned, and weighed before being loaded onto insulated trucks. They're then transported to a series of distributors called jobbers who handle delivery to bait vendors throughout the region.
Well, we were one of the larger crawling bait businesses in the southeastern United States. There are larger crawling bait businesses probably now than what we are, but we're still, I would say, probably the largest in the southeastern United States.
The variety of shapes and sizes occupying 4R Farms worm beds reflect the diverse demand from the fishermen who drive production.
Well, we grow the wiggler, or the jumper, as it's commonly called, The correct name for it's a gray worm, but we grow it. That's the one we grow the most of and sell. We also handle the big red, which is a European red worm that's much larger than the little red most people are familiar with in this country, or manure worm, yellowtail, some people call it. We also handle the pink worm, which is known some of the time as earthworm. It's a more fragile worm. We don't grow it, but we buy it. It's harvested in the wild. And we also handle Canadian night crawlers we get in from Canada and distribute those to our jobbers and distributors also.
And while they may look like just plain old worms to the untrained human eye, fish can be a bit more particular.
Cat fishermen will use the Canadian night crawler. They cut him up in pieces, and he's pretty tough. And the pink worm probably is known for being used to catch shell cracker. I think the world champion shell cracker was caught on a Florida pink. Well, they called it a Georgia pink, but I bet it come out of Florida, a Florida pink worm. And then the wiggler and the jumper and big red, they're used for catching brim and shell cracker.
Reeder and his brothers have their hands on worms nearly every day, but Bobby says he likes to handle them on his off days as well.
I don't get a chance to do it during the peak of the season when the fishing is the best. What I wind up doing usually is fishing when everybody else is not fishing, because it's slow enough I can take off with my business. But I love it. Love to fish, love to eat them.
For Simply Southern, I'm Kevin Worthington.
Whether it's worms, cattle, or your favorite fruits and veggies, your one-stop resource for all things farming is at the Alabama Farmers Federation's website. That's at alphafarmers.org. Plus, get the most up-to-date information by following the Alabama Farmers Federation on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And don't forget that you can stay up to date with Simply Southern online as well. Follow us on Facebook, subscribe to our Simply Southern TV YouTube channel, and check out our blog, which is updated every Sunday morning at 6 o'clock. Just visit simplysouthern.tv.net. We hope you've enjoyed discovering the impressive variety of agricultural products that are produced in our state every day. On next week's Simply Southern Retrospective, we'll revisit some of the delicious goodies that come from Alabama farms. Thanks for stopping by for another edition of Simply Southern. I'm Mary Wilson. See you next time.
Simply Southern is a production of the Alabama Farmers Cooperative and the Alabama Farmers Federation.